So we can even move that into music, right? Into our chants. And I think one of the things that popped up was in the that you guys mentioned was in that new animation, which is pretty cool
Mm.
though. It's called Trese. And then but
Ah.
there was an Ifugao chant that they used in the beginning, right? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I wanted to come
Yeah,
better prepared about this because like I had a
I
whole
don't
thing about it.
I don't know the chants very
Um,
well, but essentially,
the
I can give
yeah,
the overarching story. But essentially, it when a lot of
But we
people
can bring it up in
heard,
another podcast, the deeper.
yeah, we could,
you can get that.
but
But
Yeah.
yeah, just give the general idea.
yeah,
But give the general idea, yeah.
essentially, so in the new Trese like anime, which is about like I guess a Filipino detective, Filipino cop, fighting supernatural
Ah, yeah.
um,
Papailan.
things that are based off of
Mm-hmm.
Filipino myths and stories and all that, which is kind of cool. I never actually watched it. My wife watched it, and I did she like it anyway. Um, but anyway, in the intro, I believe so. There's
I saw part of
this
it. It's pretty cool.
yeah. There's this like ominous like chanting as a part of the intro along with the music. I mean, I kind of get if you don't understand, I guess, the chants, which I mean, I don't. Um, it's it does serve its purpose in terms of just um, auditory, like enacting auditory feelings or whatever. But
Setting the tone.
right, exactly. But when you dig deeper, a lot of people from Ifugao were saying, "Hey, this sounds a little familiar," and I think one of the things was, first of all, um, it was being labeled as a different chant, which is more of
The
a
hood.
yeah, exactly the hood hood, which is more of a traditional chant for what's it for, like festivals and stuff like that, or
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
harvest.
harvest. There you
Mm-hmm.
go.
Mm-hmm.
But it was actually a
Harvest.
different, not a chant, but a different.
It's
What
a
would you call it?
song.
Yeah,
It's a song
a
actually.
song that tells like a totally different type of story. So yeah, a lot of Ifugao people were. I think from the comments that I saw, they were pretty 50-50. Half of them were like, "Hey, this is
Mm-hmm.
cool. They're using our stuff," and the other half was like, "Hey, why?"
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah,
The
Mm-hmm.
from
Yeah, I
one
think
of
some of the
one of our
comments
friends.
I saw were.
Yeah, good.
Oh, sorry, man. I think there's a delay in my mic. Yeah. So, but I was saying like from one of the comments I saw, the guy was saying this is actually a peaceful chant. Why is this
It's a
chant
love
of
song.
this peaceful
It's a
chant
love
being
song.
used? Yeah, it and it's being used in a kind of like a scary format
Yeah.
for a thriller type anime. It's like the context is not proper. So there's stuff like that where it's kind of like, if you're the
Mhm.
if you're the writer or the person who's throwing out that music and using that chant, and maybe it'd be best to do a little bit of research about it before, just because it sounds like a certain way doesn't mean you can just throw it in there. It's like when they start using that. This is not from Igorots, but like when they use those kind of crazy chants, that the Gregorian chants or whatever that they use when they're trying to like oh, boop, boop. They use those like crazy chants that are all in Latin. You know, I
Yeah.
if someone's gonna use those kind of crazy chants, I'm sure that they go and research the background, or the language. They translate the language before they actually use it and put it in a movie. You know what I mean? So it'll be
yeah,
the same thing. Like with a chant like this, it's like, oh yeah, wouldn't you do the research? So I think that was one of the complaints. That's like kind of like, guys, put things in the proper context at least.
you want to give an
If you're gonna
update to that,
use
Edel?
chants from Ifugao.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So, I spoke to one of our friends, Ken, who's Ifugao, and he thought it was just interesting too. Like, yeah, I agree with Gerald. I think most of the sentiment was like mixed, 50-50. A lot of it was it was
Uh,
cool that they featured it, but also a lot of it was kind of questionable because for a lot of people they were confusing it with the Hood Hood, which is it's not. It's the song Baya Uhin from Baluha or Baya Uhin Baluha or Baluha Baya Uhin. And that's exactly what they
Aloha.
sing, and
Mm.
it's actually a love story. So I spoke to Ken, and like he was kind of like, it's cool that they're featuring an Ifugao song, but it's like out of context because it's meant to be
Yeah,
like
it's out
a
of
love song,
context. Yeah.
and he was saying that it's a song that they used to sing in elementary school as kids, right? And if you hear the original song, it's
Uh-huh.
completely different from the tone that it's being portrayed from the show. And so initially, I wasn't gonna watch the show because I wasn't interested in it, but because of this whole controversy, I guess, or this whole issue, I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm interested in seeing if the show is good." And I do think the show is actually pretty decent. It's interesting because it's a lot of showcasing of Filipino mythology, but it's
Yeah.
essentially it's based off of it's based off of a graphic novel. And what the graphic novel is not exactly telling stories about like Filipino myth, but using elements of Filipino mythology into a detective drama. That's basically what it is. So it's not completely like a folk story or it's not folklore per se, but it has elements of it, which is really cool because it's it's cool. Animation's all right, but yeah,
It's
so
just
like
nice to actually have something.
out there, yeah.
Sorry, I
But
was just saying it's nice to kind of have that kind of representation, something out
no,
there in a
exactly,
mainstream kind of
exactly,
place like Netflix, right?
exactly,
So
Yeah,
exactly.
I
but
think that's where some of this feeling comes, where it's like kind of half and half. Where it's like, oh man, I mean, it's awesome that we got some representation, but it's like completely out of context.
Yeah.
I
So
like it and I don't like it. I don't know how to
most of
feel.
the feeling
You
that
know?
that is somewhat against it is because of the initial tone that is being placed with that particular song. Had it been a specific
Huh?
song that fit that tone of creepiness, uh, that fit the film motif of the actual uh
Yeah.
movie intro and even the show itself. But I think the issue is more of the actual intro because the intro is set in a way where it's very, very ominous and the term creepy is the one that's being used the most.
Yeah.
So it's a creepy vibe. And it's so in like I took a
That's what it's
screenshot
supposed to
where
kind of give, right?
that's the whole that's what the artist is trying to portray. That's what they're trying to express.
Convey.
And that's where a lot
Yes.
of people have
Yes.
bad weird feelings about it
Yes.
because I took a screenshot where it had the song and I think it was a different song too, a different Ifugao song because there's a bunch of posts on social media where the composer was interviewed um by Variety or Vogue Philippines, by Esquire Philippines.
Oh,
They're
really?
being interviewed and
Yeah.
so yeah, the composer was actually fairly knowledgeable.
Mm.
And so how it happened was they got their cousin to record the song. So he went out of his way to seek out the song, and he was very knowledgeable about the actual song and the culture behind it, which is great. That's good to hear. But still, the whole adding and the expression of how the intro was still kind of like met with mixed feelings because in in the part where the song is being played, um in one of the scenes in the subtitle it was like creepy chanting. And it's like, well, yeah, in that context it's creepy chanting the way it's being expressed. However, the chant itself
Creepy chanting.
is not
Oh my
it's not
god.
creepy. So at the
Yeah,
end of the
it's
day,
not
to me
creepy.
it's great that the show exists. However, it's not completely, it's not completely perfect.
Yeah.
Right, but
I
weren't they
personally think
saying
I
animation
guess
tank.
it's
weren't,
kind of
weren't
like
they giving more of an update on that, saying that explaining how it actually did fit? I just can't remember.
Ooh, I have not seen that because
Oh,
the
you
latest
haven't? Because
latest thing I've
yeah,
seen was the Esper Philippines.
there was purpose to it. Because like you said, they knew what the song was, what it was saying, but I thought there was something where they said that it did fit in terms of what it was
is there a
saying
love
in
story that's
context.
going to come out near the end? Is there a love story
Uh,
that's going to come out
no,
later on
No.
I don't think so. No,
over the
not
whole?
in the same
'Cause
context of the
haven't
no, no,
watched the whole thing.
no, no, no. So essentially, the song itself is out of context to the whole show, but the
Yeah. Okay.
I think what Gerald's trying to say is there was a lot of artistic interpretation with the inclusion of the song to give it authenticity,
Mm.
which is nice. But like I mean, if the intention of the song and the inclusion of it is valid, which to me is still kind of unless I get the artist's actual interpretation, then because to me it's lost to me, right? And art is subjective, so but this is where the conversation is even more so where like despite like in spite of art being subjective, um is are things that are culturally sensitive like hands off, you know? Should it be used? When
Mm.
can we use it? And should we even use it at all? So, I mean,
Yeah,
even for
that's the
us,
question.
in a lot of ways, for us, for BBAC, there can be an argument be made where we're taking a lot of artistic liberties when it comes to like performance, right? There's a lot that can be said depending on who you talk to.
But I think it's
Someone who's
different when Igorot people actually do it.
true,
When
true.
Igorot people are doing an interpretation, kind of taking ownership of their own dance, and then they're kind of adding some evolution to it. It's different than when someone else is kind of doing it, and they haven't even like contacted the community or
Mhm,
even like researched it. They just kind of like learned it from a dance video that they saw like some dance troupe do and stuff, and that dance troupe never even talked to Igorot people about like you know the rituals or even why they do those dances, or they just make up
mhm,
some shit. You know what I mean? It's just,
yeah,
uh, yeah,
whole can
Yeah,
of
so
worms.
yeah.
I
We went
mean,
off tangent.
I know, totally off, but I think what makes the Trese situation
But
is
it's a good discussion.
it's it's a little bit more complicated than some of the other just blatant like forms of misappropriation, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
Mhm,
it, but yeah.
yeah. My
yeah.
favorite
It's
my
but
favorite
it there's
argument
it's it,